Hey, this is Terry, Everything Homestead. I'm back again with John Deere tractor here, and today I'm going to talk about some safety aspects of using one of these machines. So again, like I said in my last video, if you are a farmer or someone who's grown up around tractors quite a bit, this video is probably not for you. Maybe you'll learn something, stick around if you like. But a lot of the people moving into this world of homesteading are somewhat new to the tractor scene, and I got this idea from my wife. She said, well, I want to take the tractor and go do whatever we were going to do. And I said, you got to learn how to drive the tractor first. And she said, well, it's like driving a car, right? And I said, I'll show you. I'd be happy to show you. But that got me thinking, maybe I should put something out there on YouTube for all the people that are interested in driving a tractor. And that's a great thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to know. These things are super useful, but I just want you to do it safely. So I would encourage you to take a tractor safety class. That's probably the first thing you should do. Don't just listen to my video and say, hey, I got it. Contact your county ag agency. They probably can get you in touch with the tractor safety class, or else your local high school probably has resources for getting you in touch with tractor safety classes, because they do teach kids while they're in high school some tractor safety program stuff. So start with that. It's really important. They do a good job teaching you a lot of stuff that I'm not even going to cover in this video. So as I mentioned, like in my last tractor video, one of the big concerns I have is the safety of sitting in one of these open cab tractors. When you're sitting in the seat there and this tractor rolls over, you're gonna have a tough time surviving that, because it'll be the whole weight of the tractor on top of you. So if you could maybe consider getting a rollover protection system installed, which I don't have, and I probably should. I probably should for safety's sake, because I'm not the only one that's going to be driving this thing. And that helps keep you from getting crushed when this thing rolls over. The loader on a tractor, there are varying degrees of safety as far as loaders go. This is probably one of the least safe loaders on the market. This isn't even on the market anymore, but it's probably about 50 years old. It's run by a trip system. There's a mechanical lever up at the cab or the driver's seat that you yank on, and there's a pin down in there. You probably can't see the pin, but there's a pin down in there. It's probably about the size of my thumb that goes into a hole, and it only goes into that hole maybe 3/8 of an inch, maybe half an inch at the most deep. And that pin is all that holds on to this loader from dumping. This loader is probably just the bucket. It's probably close to 400 pounds all by itself. If it's loaded with material, you could have that easily up to double that. And so what makes it dangerous is that little pin. If someone should bump that lever up there, or if you're driving through the woods or whatever happens and that little lever mechanism gets bumped, pulls that pin, this thing drops down. I was always told by my dad my whole life, never get underneath that thing, never get underneath that thing. So now here's me, I have it, and I keep telling people working around me, don't get underneath that thing, it's not safe. We use it sometimes for, if we get a deer and we're skinning a deer, we'll hoist it up with this. And you just have to be very careful every time we work on that deer not to be standing underneath this thing. Number one, the bucket could trip. It only goes so far, but it's also held up by hydraulics. The hydraulic system could fail for whatever reason. If a hose blew, this thing would come crashing down. Good advice for any loader: don't do anything underneath it. Stay out from there. While we're speaking about loader safety, if you have a heavy loader, and like for instance, this tractor, the front tires used to have a narrow front end where the two tires were side by side just under the front nose of this tractor, and my dad put a conversion kit on, so he's got a wide wheelbase front end. If you've got a narrow wheelbase on the front of this tractor and you lift this loader up with some heavy weight, you've got a high chance of tipping this tractor over just because the weight distribution changes. A little bit of a slope, a little bit of a bump, it's too sharp of a turn, you just tipped your tractor over. And if you got a cab like this, that's not a good thing. Good bit of advice is, if you're hauling something that's got some weight to it, the lower you can keep this to the ground, the more stable your tractor will be. If you lift it way up in the air, you're just asking for trouble. Not only do you risk the trouble of tipping over, if you got something in that loader like a load of wood, you tip it too high and you hit a bump, the wood can come tumbling at you. Some people lift logs, and that's happened, and a big log can come rolling right at you. The countryside where I live, we've got some hills, we've got some slopes, so the chances of this driving on a side slope of a hill are pretty high. So one thing that was done are these wheels are out as wide as they can go for better stability, for less chance of tipping over. I could move these tires in just next to the seat on both sides. Makes it pretty narrow, but it increases the chance of tipping over. If you look over here, these are adjustable. You see those little marks right there? Those are all notches that you can catch as you're bringing the tires in closer and you're setting the width. Just have to loosen up some of these bolts and jack up the tractor and move the tire in and out, but it is an option for some of these tractors to adjust the width of your tires. And here I am sitting in the driver's seat now, and the next thing I'm going to talk about is learning your controls. You've got various levers for various things. These are the hydraulic levers for the loader and the 3-point on the back of the tractor, and this is the style of shifter we have for going into different gears. Learn how they work. It's kind of a big deal. Other than that, down here is the biggest thing that newbies that are to driving tractors have to understand. These are brake pedals. They are designed to do, obviously stop the tractor, but this one is designed for the left rear wheel, and this one is for the right. It can be kind of a little bit of a catastrophe if you're moving right along and you slam your foot down to stop and you only hit this one. You're going to send your tractor into a tailspin, and it could be bad. There's a little flip lever down here that can come over, and that'll actually drop down and lock the two brake pedals together, which is a really good idea for most of you. Lock them together, that'll avoid those problems. There's a lot of useful situations for having one brake pedal at a time, which I'm not going to go over in this video. That's more for advanced people that are using tractors out in the field and really know what they're doing. Other than that, speaking of the brake pedals, that's probably one of the most important things that I was always taught in driving a tractor, is learning how to stop this thing. When something happens, something goes bad, something breaks, whatever, first thing you got to do is stop. So over here is the clutch pedal. Now the older tractors, they're all pretty similar. Newer tractors, they've got hydrostatic shifting and whatnot. So this is primarily for the tractor I'm sitting on, but there's a lot of similarities with the older tractors of different models too. The clutch pedal right there, that's the first thing you have to hit if there's ever any trouble. If you blow a tire or something falls apart, your wheel falls off, whatever reason, the first thing you do is you push in the clutch, hit the brake. That's the first thing. Get it stopped, run down the throttle, shut it down as quickly as you can. That's the first thing that we're taught in tractor safety. You have to understand how much power these things have. They are so powerful, and if you're not aware of that, you could be running in for trouble. For instance, you come down here to the power takeoff here. There are some horrible stories of power takeoff accidents, and it can literally rip your arm off and easily kill you. These things are so dangerous if you're not paying attention. There's a lot to these to understand, more than I'm going to go through in this video, but just know when you go to take your tractor safety course, learn everything you can about these and understand them very well. You get the shaft hooked up to this, and in operation, it spins really fast. It can catch your clothes and just pummel you. It's a horrible thing. A lot of people lose their lives every year because of these things. Experienced farmers get lazy or whatever, and they cross over these shafts thinking they'll be fine, and it catches them and they're done. You have to respect the power of these tractors, even if it's spinning this fast. And you're thinking that's nothing to worry about. Yeah, except that doesn't stop. If you get your shirt stuck in that, your sleeve stuck in that, and you're spinning this fast, it doesn't stop. It'll pull you right in slowly. It's just a slow death is all it is, or slowly rip your limb off. So you have to respect the power of these tractors in all respects. You got to respect the power of pulling, lifting on the loader, all this stuff. It's very important. It's got to keep you safe. Last thing I'm going to talk about here is, do you see how many seats are in this tractor here? There's one seat. Every tractor I've ever seen, there's one seat that comes out of the factory, and there's a reason for that. It's for safety. These are not built to haul people. It's extremely dangerous to be hauling people. Whether we used to do it as kids, so I should be the one to speak, but we used to ride on the fenders. A lot of times we used to put one foot down here in the drawbar and hang on, go down the road that way. Kind of scary when you think about it. But my best friend, when he was he 5, 6 years old, he was riding on this tractor, just like this tractor, with his grandpa who was plowing the field. He was riding on here, they hit a bump. He fell off this way while going through the field. He went under the tire, and thankfully his grandpa stopped when he was right here before the plow ran him over. Luckily, the ground was soft enough. Soft dirt saved his life, obviously, or he wouldn't be able to tell me that story. But it happened so easily. That farmer that was driving, his grandpa was driving tractors, farmer his whole life. He drove tractors his whole life. And he thought, yeah, nothing wrong, throw him up here. It is so dangerous. There's some nightmare stories of farmers that have their kids on here, except they hit a bump, kid falls off the back, and depending on what you're pulling, it's absolutely catastrophic. It's catastrophic for the family, for the communities. It's ugly. Some chances aren't worth taking. You think it's fun to get your kids out there or whoever with you to join you along, but there's one seat on there for a reason. Sometimes there's even seat belts on these seats. The older ones don't. It's to keep the one person safe. It's not meant for 2, 3, 4 people. I've personally seen, 4 or 5 people ride on here one time. It's primarily just for transportation to get from one farm to the other, not necessarily doing field work, but it doesn't matter. It's not safe. Don't go down that road. If you're new to driving a tractor especially, you don't know how that tractor is going to react when it hits a bump, sloping the land. One seat, one person. Thanks for watching.